I'm going to start today by reading a short prayer, the Artist's Prayer from the Artist's Way. And I have a journal. Every year I get a new, journal. And for instance, last year I had a different style of journal and I filled 12 of them. This is my first one for this year, and this is my new style. It's from Paper Blanks. I love paper blanks. Uh, this is from a Art Deco building in New York City. And so this pattern is just amazing, and it really fits with, I think, what we're talking about in this idea of regeneration and reinvention. So every time I open my journal, every new journal, all 12, all year, I will start by writing the Artist's Prayer on the first page. This is from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, so I'm going to read it for us today. And it always starts with, "O Creator," but I always change it. I always say, "O Muses," or "O Oyster Goddess," or "O the Tree of Life," or whatever I happened to be thinking about at that time. So this time it was, "O Muses, we are gathered together in your name that we may be of greater service to you and our fellows. We offer ourselves to you as instruments. We open ourselves to your creativity in our lives. We surrender to you our old ideas. We welcome your new and more expansive ideas. We trust that you will lead us. We trust that it is safe to follow you. We know you created us and that creativity is your nature and our own. We ask you to unfold our lives and help us believe that it is not too late, that we are not too small or too flawed to be healed by you and through each other and made whole. Help us to love one another, to nurture each other's unfolding, to encourage each other's growth, and to understand each other's fears. Help us to know that we are not alone, that we are loved and lovable. Help us to create as an act of love to you. And that's Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, an Artist's Prayer. Okay, so let's get started. Day 4. I'm going to share my screen now with my presentation and just kind of get going. And as you come in today and, just get settled, I would like you to put in the chat anything you're thinking about, anything that has come up over the past few days for you. And I will sort of revisit this as we go on our time together today. Okay. Hello, Judy says. Well, greetings. Thank you for being here so much. All right, so today we are mustering the muses. We are on step 5 and 6, and I'm going to review again. Of course, first we talked about our 3 basic concepts, the 4 hats of the artist in business, our creator hat, our leader hat, our operator hat that deals with the details and the finances and the nuts and bolts of whatever project we do. And then the promoter hat, which is the party hat, which is the hat we wear when we build relationships with people and we sell our work and we go to events and we reach out to the world. The hero's journey is all about that cycle of being the unwilling hero, being called to a new adventure. And, this just struck me that as we see these fires, there are 20,000 people or more that have just been called as unwilling heroes in their own lives. They're going to have to, against their will, be called to reinvent their lives now. And this is how this happens. So, and then the 8 creative elements. Okay, so on top of this, we've created this creative hero's journey where we start out by seeding our own dream and thinking about what we really want to do. Then we have imagined and established and examined the patterns of power that has got us where we are now. And I want to stop here just for a second, and I'd love for people to put into the chat, what was your biggest pattern of power? What is your biggest strength as far as just how you sweep in and fix things, or how you track down data, or how you take a leadership role, or how you solve problems, or how you help from behind the scenes. Okay, so what is your pattern of power? What is your winning strategy? And if you could share that, I think that would help us get some clarity as we kind of go through this again. Okay, Kelly's recent thoughts were wanting more synchronicity, interesting, more chance, not feeling as fulfilled as a poet as I used to, uncertain about what's next, trying.
Seems to has it always
Okay,
gets
sorry, I'm
fires,
going
but
to mute. There we go. Um, Uncertainty about what's next, trying to find her way again in middle age. The main question is, what should I be doing? Biggest pattern of power for Kelly, responsibility. Oh, self accountability and getting stuff done. Isn't that true? And that's true for so many people and so many women, right? Doing the work, showing up, being the secretary, being the admin, being the person who handles things. And sometimes feeling like, wow, if I walked away, like, I can't leave you guys alone for 10 minutes and things fall apart, right? Having a family, having a group, having this sort of like responsibility for things, and sometimes wanting to run away from that, right? So that responsibility can be a true winning strategy that can keep you in a lot of ways from doing other things, but it can also give you so much success in your life. Okay, Kevin Forehand, attentive listening. Yes. I have to say you're the best listener probably I've ever met, Kevin. And just think about, what does that keep you from doing sometimes? That's a good thought. Pam, I journaled a lot about my avoidance tactics, moving forward, embracing the discomforts as invitations to explore and learn. And learning is strength. Learning about self, others, information, and new skills. That's so great. It is a strength. It is a winning strategy. I know I have the same thing. Sometimes I keep learning, thinking, oh, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? I keep learning and going to school when I should be out there living and acting and you know, putting school away and living the adult life, right? So sometimes schooling and thinking we don't know and thinking we need to learn the next thing keeps us from having to create our own intellectual property, our own, and becoming that teacher and going to the next level. So you can see how the winning strategy and the avoidance strategy are interlocked, and they can work towards each other and towards good and also keep us back. And once committed, I can push through all kinds of resistance to make something happen. It's fully committing that is the problem. So yes, sometimes living in that middle zone, it's like, okay, I'm not ready to commit. I know if I did, it would be great and I could do it, but do I want to? Is it worth the effort? Right? Because there's so many choices in the world and there's so many things to do. Jen, moving quietly, listening before moving, that's amazing. That's such a great winning strategy. And sometimes that keeps you also in your cave and it's not as acting as boldly as maybe sometimes you need to, right? So there's that yin and yang. Ability to see forest and trees, yes, Elizabeth, visionary, pointing out the forward way for others and jump starting others. Julia Cameron wrote this book called How to Stop Doing Art, or How to Not Do Art, Make Art. And it's a bunch of drawings that her daughter made. One of them is support others in doing their art, right? And that keeps us from doing our own. So I'm not saying you are doing this at all, but this is just, there's always that yin and yang from every winning strategy. Challenges, confidence, doubt. I can do this. Yes. At midpoint, wanting more direction, more inspiration, more adventure, not sure about patterns of power. Okay, those are the winning strategies, you know? What has gotten you your success so far? You're a fixer, middle child from an uncertain home, and want to be more of a mentor, right? The peacemaker, the person in the middle who's like, okay, I'll take, you guys don't fight, right? I'll fix things. Everything's going to be okay. A lot of women take on this role. A lot of artists take on this role. Uncertainty makes moving difficulty. Uncertainty is so good because it's a decision that we have to make to decide to be certain, right? Okay. Maybe I can move forward not fully committed and learn to commit along the way. Oh. And when you're in, this is the gift of the unwilling hero, right? When you're unwilling, it's such a gift. You're forced to do this because no, you're not committed. You're not committed. You're just forced down the path. And sometimes that's the best blessing. And then you get your wits about you and you have your, you know, your transformation from supernatural aid and you go, oh, okay, now I'm figuring it out. Right. So no, we don't have to be committed from day one. And these are so wise. All of these things are so great. Okay, so we've talked about patterns of power, our winning strategies, and then our key, which is the avoidance strategy. What are we avoiding? Okay, so again, just list quickly, just one word. What are we avoiding in the chat? I just want to kind of bring this up to the surface and clarify this for everybody again. Like for me, I mentioned mine's feeling trapped. Okay, so my biggest value is freedom, and I can't feel trapped. I just will run. Okay, so if anyone has anything that they have just identified as their avoidance pattern, feeling weak, yes. Feeling weak, oh yes. The idea that, you know, we're small and insignificant like that Adam and Eve figure, right? No one wants to feel that. Failure. Jen, don't know what I'm avoiding. That's interesting. That's really good. It's sort of, you know, we all avoid a lot of things, right? And this exercise just asks you to sort of look at one thing for now, and you can do it again, okay? We avoid singing our own praises. Okay, good, Elizabeth. Right. Ego. And we think that's a good thing, but that keeps us sort of behind the scenes. Okay, so that's avoidance pattern. I think is that hiding is interesting. Okay, avoiding the vulnerability of putting my portfolio and book out there. Yep, it's also good. Decisive, independent action. Wow, so good. Okay, so those are the keys. Everything we listed as our avoidance, our avoidance pattern, for now, just that one thing, that's the key that we've pressed into our pocket that we need to remember and be aware of. Okay? Kelly says, not sure, maybe living for myself. Okay, selfishness, right? We often think that selfishness is so bad that we can't live for ourselves, right? We have to live for our families or for others or whatever, and just want something because we want it for no other reason and go for it. Okay. Avoiding sink or swim, avoiding selfishness. Yeah. Making choices that are more comfortable for others. Oh my gosh. Ding, ding. Right. We're people pleasers. We do things because we think that that's what everyone else thinks is good and okay and right for us when they don't have any idea. Okay. Because no one can see into another person's mind. All right. So now we entered the abyss. We had that experience of loss and, you know, being kicked out by that sharp, pointy light of the Holy Spirit, right? And God, out of the garden, out of the beauty. We can still see those little flecks, so we can remember what it was like a little bit, right? But we're in this journey now in this darkness. And we realized that as we go down into these trials and all of this, that the worst thing that can happen is an emotion. We may lose a limb. We may lose our health. We will die. We know that. We may lose our mind. But all of the worst things that happen are emotions. And how we handle those are always the human condition of the abyss. So the wisdom of the abyss, just as this reminder, is the willingness to feel any emotion. Okay, so now let's move on to turning the corner to starting our way out of the hero's journey. All right. So, or out of the abyss back to the known world. All right. So, first, mustering the muses. The muses are the archetypal, historical, classical personification of the arts. And ironically, the 9 muses, as we can sort of see here, very small. Let me see. I can't make these bigger right now, but oh, maybe I can. Let me see. Let me see if I can make that bigger. Yeah. Okay. So each one of them has a different art, right? Here is one sitting with Homer, Calliope, and she is dictating or helping Homer make his play, make his stories. All right, so they are the sort of and ironically there's not one for painting, right? The painting wasn't a thing back then in the classical era, right? People made, in a sense, it was like making mosaics and paintings and murals was almost in sense like a craft, but it wasn't one of these sort of higher arts. So we have, geometry and music and poetry and so on. But it's really interesting how the idea of the personification of the muses has changed. So these persons, these characters that sort of inspire each of the different arts, including history, geometry, science, philosophy, music, poetry. And as we kind of go into their messages, the idea is that the muse comes to inspire. And if anyone has seen Elizabeth Gilbert's wonderful talk about when she had written Eat, Pray, Love, and how she went into a deep depression, into her own abyss about what's going to happen next, with what's she going to write next. She talked about the muse and the concept of genius from the ancients. Genius was, in a sense, a sort of a house god, right? A figure that could actually move around and could sort of alight on someone and give them that inspiration, like the muses would send the genius to do this inspiration. And that the ideas or the inspiration didn't come from the person, but in a sense it came from the world or the universe or spirit or out there. So this idea of creativity reigning in our lives, in this scenario that I'm offering you, in this creative journey, the muses are part of this nature element. Okay, so the muses say, you've lived through these. You've now understood the wisdom. You didn't want to go. Okay, you were put on this earth to do these patterns of power and create these patterns of winning strategy in your society and have a house and get an education and all of that. And this is what you're avoiding. So now take that key, let's go into the abyss, and now what, right? So once you've done these things, then the muse says, Now I can really help you. Now you've had some loss. Now you understand death. Now you've abandoned hope. Now you've had a disease. Now you've like failed a bunch. You've been humbled. You've suddenly lost your entitlement to feeling like, oh, this is the way things were supposed to be. Like I was supposed to get rich, move to Palisade, build a beautiful home, and live there the rest of my life. Nope. That house is going to burn down now, right? Life happens and we can't control it. So we have to be willing to feel any emotion and let those emotions happen. So when that happens, we can then move to the next stage. We can process it, right? We can watch those emotions go by, like in Buddhist, meditation. So we've done everything our muse has asked. We've accepted the wisdom of the abyss. We've figured out that there's no fixed ways that things should be, that our house could burn down. We've forged our key and we've surrendered to our avoidance strategy and become willing to feel any emotion. So that's where we're at. So these muses are part of our team now. Okay, so I want you to think about your muses as like having all the knowledge you have, right? All of the knowledge and the archetypal wisdom that you have, and you have their knowledge. So we are tapping into sort of this universal collective unconscious. It's a combination of your winning strategy, what society has taught you, your avoidance strategy, what our job and our work is to do, the muses who bring these messages and inspiration of nature to us. And then I love this painting. This is Ethel Culkin. She is an English painter. She's having she lived in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. She lived in Cornwall and Devon. She's having the first retrospective of her work in Cornwall at St. Ives at the Tate. And I can't go to it. It's in February, but her work is amazing. She was really into the occult, tarot, a lot of these really interesting concepts that were archetypes that we're talking about here. And this is her painting the 9 pearls. And I think of it in terms of, the muses or the hero's journey. So the second part of your team is the 12 archetypes, the skills of the world. Okay, the skills of the collective unconscious, and their opposite. Okay, so we have that archetypal list. Now I'm going to see if I can quit sharing my face because I want to show this one a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that's better. You should be able to see only the archetypes, right? So that's a little bit bigger. Sorry. Okay. So archetypes can help us by helping us to understand this bigger picture. That there are all of these skills we can have. We are on this journey that repeats, right? That the archetypes can help us find the strengths that we need by having a platter to choose from. Do I want to be, the innocent today? Do I want to be the explorer or the sage or the magician? It helps us know we're not alone because we have the history of literature to look for characters and to look for other qualities and mentors. And we realize that all artists have looked to these archetypes to create work and to understand creativity. Archetypes help us normalize failure and change because this process is all about understanding, the yin yang, the opposites, the shadow self, and trying to integrate those things together. And then archetypes help us decide what we want to feel and what we want to do by looking at examples of how other people have experienced the world and then saying, I'm going to try that. What does that take? It takes courage. I am going to become courageous and I am going to take on the mantle of the magician or the warrior. And this is how I feel: courageous, brave. It helps us make decisions. It helps us understand what we're avoiding by looking at the shadow. And it helps us embrace that resistance. So archetype work is so powerful. And again, I would really suggest this, any of her books, but Carol S. Pearson, who really came up and solidified this idea of 12 archetypes in our current culture in her PhD work in the 70s and 80s. And she wrote a series of books, Awakening the Heroes Within, The Hero Within, etc. Okay, so you'll die, so you'll fail, so life won't turn out, so your house will burn down. Are you still in? Right? This is what happens. Are you still in? Because our options are give up, right? What are our options? Give up, suicide, depression, lingering in non-action, pain, being addicted to that pain. We don't want that. No one wants that. And when we fall into this action of like giving up, sometimes it feels so easy, just relax, just give up, just don't do anything. That safety space that our brain wants to keep us in. But we're human, and our instinct is to innovate. It's to look to the next hill. It's to say, what's over there? Everything around us has happened because of that instinct. Otherwise we'd still be in a small tribe where we started out in Africa or Australia or, wherever they say that like these life sources start, Europe. The Neanderthals made it up to Europe. Then another group started over here. And we spread over the world. Why? Because we innovate. Because we look over that hill. Because we need food. We need shelter. There's population growth, right? So all of these different factors of being human, a lot of them driven by innovation and desire for what's next and to keep ourselves safe, but also grow. Okay, so your mission today, should you choose to accept it. I love this little picture. Our mouse, remember, who was hitting the struggle button? Now he's taken on the mission. Should you choose to accept it, like in Get Smart or Mission Impossible, the muses say, now, if you're going to do this, if you're going to do this thing, okay, and you accept the conditions to have creativity reign and to have us inspire you, there are a few things that you're going to have to sort of understand and do for me, okay? And I'm talking as the muses here. I'm talking as your coach in this moment, but that what you say is possible is possible. Who you are is your stand, and that there's no fixed way to do this. Okay, so these things come again from The Last Word on Power by Tracy Goss. It's a fantastic book. The subtitle is Executive Reinvention for Leaders Who Must Make the Impossible Happen. Now, it's executive. It's from the 90s. This is before the internet. But it's an amazing book. And it's about all the things we're talking about. And I think it really applies to individual creative transformation. Okay, so the muse says, we will support you if you, artist, take radical responsibility to invent your own impossible infinite game. Okay. So now that we know everything, we will die. This is this nihilistic existential way of looking at the world. Now what? Now we make it up as we go along, right? We get to decide if we want to follow society anymore. We get to decide whose opinion matters. And we get to decide what we do with our time. That's our commodity, and that's in our brain. Those are our commodities. Okay? So, do you want to spend your time worrying about everyone else when we're all going to die, right? So, this sort of like we're all going to die concept, I joke about it, and it's the jester and it's the trickster, right? Holding up the mirror to us. It's the memento mori, but it's so helpful. Again, it's that yin yang. Alice in Wonderland says, "There is no use in trying," said Alice. "One can't believe impossible things." "I dare say you haven't had much practice," said the Queen. "When I was your age, I always did it for an hour a day. Sometimes I believed 6 impossible things before breakfast." I love this insightful, funny, true way of looking at the world. And I want you to put in the chat someone that you know that has believed something that was impossible. That could be a scientist in the past. It could be an artist who discovered something. It could be a philosopher who came up with a new idea. It could be someone you know. So I want you to think, just say a name and maybe what they did that was impossible when they thought it up or when they decided to do it. Okay? So I'll let you have a minute now to put that in the chat. Yes, Elizabeth. Yes. We're going to, okay. Jim Carrey, interesting. You know, actors. I have an actor director with us, Nelson Mandela. He believed that he was going to get out of prison 27 years later. And he did. And he inspired his country. You know, truly amazing. Rosa Parks, Jane Goodall. You know, and sometimes some of these things that people believe that are impossible, and yet they do them anyway, are impossible and don't turn out the way that they want. That's what we're talking about. Michael Jackson wrote his Grammy acceptance speech when he was a teenager. I love it. Deanne, still working on building a retreat center with little money. Yes. I know, Jen, and I know what you're talking about too, because I'm from San Juan Island. So Jim Carrey wrote himself $1 million check to himself, looking down at Hollywood when he became an actor. Yep. He wrote that check to himself and then cashed it. Right. Pam, you, Shannon, when you changed your career, right? Pam and I and 2 of our friends, this was right after my DUI. This was right after when I had my ankle bracelet on for 5 months that detected alcohol in my system. See, this was how I was the unwilling hero. I didn't choose to stop drinking. They made me. I wanted to, but I didn't have a lot of strength. And when I got that ankle bracelet, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because the choice was made for me. And so I started this Artist's Way program with 4 friends. And we went through the Artist's Way. And it's like a 12-step program for artists that aren't making art, right? Recovering non-artists. People who think they can't, or they're a bad artist, or they're too, old or whatever, right? Like I said in the Artist's Prayer, If you have the seed of desire to do something, you can do it. I was a terrible artist. I had never drawn anything. I couldn't draw my own face. I couldn't draw a straight line, quote unquote. Okay. So, yes, it was impossible for me at the time. It was impossible for me, but I did it anyway through these baby steps. James Blunt, Monsters video, such an amazing vulnerability and honesty. Oh, I'm going to watch that. Beautiful. Okay, so many examples. Lincoln, Jane Goodall. I mean, she is truly an inspirational figure. And the idea that she can connect and help to protect animals. It may not happen in her lifetime at all. It may be a complete disaster and has been, right, in her lifetime. But going forward, she has inspired so many other people to keep going in this fight that it's a success, right? So this is just so interesting to look at. My partner, Annette at Two Sylvias, was told by someone in her mom group when she shared she wanted to write a book. The woman said, "Oh, honey, we all do. It's not going to happen." Wow, thanks. So Annette wrote a book and got it published. Yay, big round of applause. Amazing. It's just true. It's like, prove them wrong, right? Rambo deliberately experimented with disorientation. Yes. Synesthesia. All of the things that, he wrote in a way that was new, different, because he believed in something in himself that he was tapping into that hadn't been done before. Okay. So thank you for engaging in this process of just like understanding what it means to think something is impossible comes from other people and our own brains, but it's not truth. It's just our thoughts about the circumstance. Okay? So, your mission. Take responsibility, take sole responsibility for your own game. All right? We're making this up. We're artists. We get to make things up. So we're making up a game today. Number 2, you get to declare the future. So once we've established that we're going to die, we have the wisdom of the abyss, the only thing that's going to be a problem is emotions. We get to declare the future and the rules of our own game. Okay? If we were to play this, what would it be? Okay. Oh man, on Wired documentary, the guy that walked across the wire in, I think it was New York, maybe it was Paris, can't remember, but amazing. Okay. So we get to declare the future. We get to decide who we will have to be, because we will have to change into a completely different person in order to do this, right? So for instance, in my case, I was a person who was off all the time, blaming other people for my stasis, for my inability to do things, blaming other people for my, oh, I had to go to this party, I had to go to this wine tasting, I had to drink more, right? Or I was feeling this, I had to celebrate. I was feeling this, I had to drink. I had to feel bad, okay? So I was blaming other people. The concept of me being able to come to a place where I would become a person who wouldn't blame other people and have resentments and bitterness seemed impossible for me at the time. I just thought that's the way things were for me. So sometimes we can't even see the person we need to become. But all I did was trust that the road that I was set out on, that I was going down, was going to be better than the one I was on before. And so I did. I started taking responsibility for my own actions and my own creativity, and I started taking those baby steps. So who will I have to be? We may not know who we're going to become, but we can have an inkling, and we can think about that. Then Make a bold promise you can't keep. And this is really interesting. I love we are all grown up with this idea that only make promises you can keep. Okay? Only do things that you're going to follow through with. And Tracy Goss suggests that we make bold promises we can't keep. And then we work towards keeping them as hard as we can. But we know we're going to break those promises. We break the promise and then we start over and do it again. Therefore, we're living from this impossible place in the future. And our brain goes to work to figure out how next we can make another promise and work towards that impossibility. So this seems counterintuitive. I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I want to just get your thoughts about this, okay? We're almost done today. So it went fast, but I want to get your thoughts about this, and I want to show you my impossible game before I stop sharing really quickly. And that is, I've decided to make this game for myself called the Get Legit and Commit game. Okay? So the key for me is my patterns of power are these are things that I've listed out that sort of help me in my coaching to help me know myself better. And this is what I take my clients through. Okay, so we do the Kolbe A Index, which is a co-native test that helps you understand how you work when you're striving hard. And it really gives a lot of insight to me on how I react or how I engage with information, systems, risk, and tangibles. For instance, the woodworkers in the group are often high on tangibles. They need to feel it in their hands and work with it in order to understand it. Me, on the other hand, I'm low on tangibles. I'm big on vision. I can envision anything, I can see anything in my head, but it's hard sometimes for me to work with my hands. Okay, so those things, those tools come together in my toolkit. And then the Enneagram helps us break down our emotional patterns. It helps me understand my winning strategy, what I'm avoiding, and the patterns that I live for other people in order to, win, right? So that's what I have here for myself. So my winning strategy is, I listen for, I need help, so I can breeze in, fix things, and run away. And therefore, flee to freedom. And what am I avoiding? Being trapped. Okay, so in order to avoid feeling trapped in my feelings of compare and despair and all of that, I avoid being trapped. So my strategy for my game is I create rules for my game. And my key, I'll read this to you now, and we're going to work on this tomorrow. So I'm going to put a PDF, this just small, short PDF sheet in the chat tomorrow. Okay, so for now, I just want you to do like a journal entry about it, and I'll lead you through that. But my key for myself is I trap myself in baby steps, hard work that I resist in order to, but I also build trap doors in every project to be able to escape and make it magic for myself. So this is the game that I'm playing, I'm creating for myself. And here are my rules. Now, this is kind of texty, okay? I don't like to put a lot of text on a slide, but you can sit and read that for a second, and I'll read a couple of them to you. And this is how this training happened. I was reading this book, and I was starting to, put all these things together. I already had my creative elements. I already had, a lot of archetype work. I already had my hero's journey and thinking about that. And when this came up, I realized that I was sort of teaching clients or out there in the world talking about things that people wanted to hear, like how to sell your art or how to make business, and all of these things really important. People want to know. But what I wanted to teach was other things. And I would kind of like filter it in a little bit, but I realized I wasn't embracing it. So the rules of my game now are embracing it, taking full responsibility for it for myself. That for me, number one, it's all connected. That I personally create a world where I get to connect what I'm reading, what I'm learning about into my teaching, art, and coaching. I don't hold back. I don't dumb it down. I don't oversimplify anymore. I don't make apologies for talking about archetypes in a sales meeting. Okay? That kind of thing. And that I get to talk about big ideas because that's who I am. I like to talk about the big vision and then how to make it easier to take the small steps. So, one of my mottos and one of my phrases that I use with my clients is baby steps and breakthroughs. You have to take the baby steps first. Once in a while, you'll get a breakthrough. Then you have to go back to the baby steps. So, vision, creative process, abstraction, big A art, to help artists envision a bigger, more fulfilling creative life using the language and tools of life coaching, literature, neuroscience, psychology, color theory, numbers, and art. So you see, people have always told me my whole life that I'm overcomplicate things. And I've always felt that. But this gives me a chance to embrace that, to see the connections in everything, and rather than to oversimplify it in order to do what I think, the internet needs or wants. Okay, so I have these other rules using my own creative flywheel, meaning that I act from the place where I feel right now, energy. And I go from there and then I move on. I use the key of my winning strategy and my avoidance strategy to take baby steps. I protect the asset, which is myself. You are the asset in your own game. You're the star of it. So, like Kelly said, if you're feeling selfish, like, oh, I'm sorry, friend, husband, mom, dad, grandmother, I shouldn't write that book. Okay, I'll just go back into my cave and I won't write that book then. Right? No, that doesn't fly anymore in your game. You need to protect the asset and rest and make sure that that asset is ready to act when you have that energy. I trust the process that all pieces will come together at the right time. I play my own game and no one else's. I don't hold back in voicing my vision for myself because of someone else's game. I walk the path by playing my own game. Number 8, I don't doubt. In my universe, it matters. When in doubt, refer to Rule 7. I play my own game. I don't hold back in voicing my vision because of someone else's game. I walk the path by playing my own game. Number 9, make promises you can't keep and break them. Be present, focused, and connected. The creative flywheel can show up at any time to give you energy to help me break a promise and make one I can't keep. So I'm always making promises I can't keep. I start a new project and I think I'm going to finish it and then I don't. But what happens is something comes out of that. Okay? Something comes out of that that's really important to take me to the next phase. And 10, I act from the future with boldness and love. Okay, so I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes. And I would like you to just briefly sketch out, one sentence, declare the future. Who will you have to be? And make one bold promise that you can't keep. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer now. Go ahead. Okay. I know that was not enough time to even get anything down, but I want you to take this journal prompt tonight and maybe spend a little more time with it. Okay, so I'm going to just, our last slide will be one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite hero artists, William Blake, who created new forms, new worlds, new journeys, new gods, new angels, new ways of thinking about art. He's amazing. He said, I must create my own system or be enslaved by another man's. I will not reason and compare. My business is to create. Okay, so let's talk for just a minute. I'm going to stop sharing. And please unmute yourself if you want to have any questions, like what does declare the future mean? Or I didn't realize I didn't explain that all that well. Or if you want to just tell us, about what you wrote, what came up for you.
What does declare the future mean?
Okay, declare the future means what is the future going to be for Matt O'Brien? For me, I just let's see. I'm going to read on off mine, which I have posted right here by my desk. Okay, the thing that I just showed you, but I didn't show you the top part. I realized. So my Get Legit and Commit game, that's my fun title that I decided to name it, is my declaring the future is I will travel in Europe, make art, teach, and coach, and develop a coaching business with revenue of $200,000 in 5 years. That seems completely impossible right now to me. But that's the future that I'm declaring. Okay. Um, I've always prided myself. This is part of my winning strategy. I can live on like $2 a month. Okay. Money's always been an issue. My parents grew up during the Depression, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really putting a goal out there for myself that has to have a monetary value. So I have something to work towards that seems impossible. And traveling in Europe is going to be part of that. I've already taken some baby steps towards it, but declaring the future is what you want to do in your own world. Okay. Okay. So does anyone else want to
Yeah.
talk?
Hi,
Susan.
Shannon. Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids are in Altadena and it's a nightmare. They moved
Oh,
twice
so
already.
sorry.
Holy wow. Okay. Um, so prayers up for Adam and Christina and everybody. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. So I'm wondering, I think I'm at least thinking, 20 things, and that's part of the problem. How to decrease the intellectual capacity that's really OCD, ADD, and not try to label it, and put all these ideas into a simpler form to manifest the dream. Is that what my question was? I think so.
Yeah, it sounds good.
To simplify all these
Simplifying.
complexities. Yeah.
So the name of your game, Susan, might
Hmm.
have the word simplify in it.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
And I have a little phrase that I use. I use this phrase complexify to simplify, which
Uh,
allows me to go down every rabbit hole and find
oh,
all the answers first.
yeah.
But I set myself a limit.
Uh-huh.
And then I say, from that, what three ideas can I take and simplify it? Right. So that's kind of a game, right? It's like a little game. It's like complexify to simplify could be the name of one little game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process of going down rabbit holes, narrowing it down to three things, and doing one thing.
And that's it. Physical time, take all that energy in the brain and apply it in your chair.
Right. So you get to make that up. You could create your own version of that game. You could use mine. Please borrow it, have it. Or you could create it for yourself and you could give yourself a limit, like, I'm going to do this for 6 months or three
Uh-huh.
months, right? Give
Uh-huh.
yourself some constraints. For me,
Yeah.
this is a 2-year plan. My get legit and commit is 2 years because that's a lot of money and I need that long to figure it out. And I may still not make it, right?
Yeah.
But
Th-
I will be a lot further down the road.
mhm.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. Okay, someone else wanna.
That's funny too, because I wrote 2 years as my time frame.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome, good. But you can start today,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Thank you.
okay, thanks. Anyone else want to share their game, their idea, their journal? Matt, I see that smile on your face. Want to share?
I think I see Jen's might be raising her
Oh,
hand.
okay, Jen. I'm sorry, I did not see. Jen, feel free.
Um, declare the future, resume creating art. Who will I have to be is selfish.
Mm,
Make a bold
beautiful,
promise. Um, full-time art.
beautiful. Okay, this is where the key is embracing that resistance to, selfishness, to our what everybody tells us our winning strategy has been, right? Picasso used to paint 12 hours a day. He had wife after wife after girlfriend after child after, right? For him, they all wandered around in his studio, but he never stopped painting because why? He was selfish. But that was his life. That was his game. That was his purpose on this earth,
Mhm.
right? So, so many women and many men artists who have resisted the family issues and all the things that draw us away from it. We need to create that rule for ourselves. And maybe you just try it for a month, see how it feels. Maybe it's not so hard. Maybe people actually do support you, right? So it's really interesting to think about, why do we have these resistances? If Picasso suddenly had every meal with his family, did everything that he was supposed to, that everybody else wanted him to do, and only made art 1 hour a day, would everybody be happy? Who would be happy in this scenario? Right? So it's just interesting to think about. Okay. All right. Um, I'm just going over a couple of minutes, but anyone else, Matt, did, or anyone else? Kelly, put myself first, follow my heart, even if it doesn't make sense. Continue to travel. Do not get pulled into the news or believe my fears, opinions are true. Write a poem a day. Explore visual art. Yeah. Yeah. I had to turn the news off after the election. I think a lot of people did. Subscriptions went down. And this is where we're at, right? We already entered that abyss and we're scared of what's going to happen in that future. We have to create our own right now. And I think that's really important for, we have to be engaged in our society, but also
Mhm.
heal ourselves and protect the asset. Okay, Pam, I'm working towards calling it being, as in being me, rather than the old society story of selfish. Right, true. Or you can call it selfish in your game, right? Somebody else, I may want to say, I'm selfish. I love it. Selfish. I'm ish to myself. You can redefine these terms in your own game. I love it. Being me. I love it. We'll go deeper with details today, exactly what I want. I'm not 100% sure. You will do it. Okay. I love it. Okay. All right. So tomorrow is our last day, and we're going to really kind of get into these things. So answer these 3 questions for yourself tonight. Again, declare the future. Who will you have to be? And make a bold promise that you can't keep. Does anyone want to share a bold promise they know they can't keep?
I will.
Okay, go for it.
I will never be hard on myself about art again.
Woo! Yay. Oh my gosh, Matt, that's perfect.
I probably won't make it through the day, but I'm going to
Right?
try.
I know, it's perfect. But the fact is that when you make that promise, it's like, oh, it's there as a bright, shining star of how you could be, the person you could be. And so you're going to keep trying to get there over and over and over, and you're going to fail over and over, but you're going to start to succeed. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's really the essence of it, isn't it? Okay. Pam, please. You can share.
Okay, there were several. I'm gonna, like Kelly, dig a little deeper because I have a lot of that vision. I have a brand tree. I think I've showed that to you
Mm-hmm.
before, and how all those come together and there's timelines and everything. Um, but just off this, what we're just talking about is, and I love what Matt said. Thank you for that, Matt, because you could crack me up. And I'm like, yes, because that was one of the bold ones, a promise that I just can't ever seem to make, even living it as an artist, and then the other career that I shifted to back to. But I'm being all three. But to be all three, I'm going to promise myself painting, drawing, actually making whatever it is for a minimum of 4 hours a day. Like, and that has to be four straight, like block
In a chunk.
in a chunk. Because
Wow, good.
when you said the Picasso thing, and I realized my whole life as an artist has always been that juggling family, juggling the other career, people pleasing, having to be at an appointment that happened
Mhm.
yesterday.
Yep.
And I went through the whole
Pam comes
thing.
last. Pam
The
comes
creative
last. Yep.
the creative flow got disrupted, or I took the phone call,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know creative zones, 20 minutes it takes to get back into that zone.
Yeah.
And I have lived a life of that, juggling that. So I'm going to promise myself 4 hour chunk, which means don't answer the phone, put the phone down and don't put anything in between there.
Yeah.
And
And it takes a while to break the habit,
yes.
right? I've seen you do it.
Once I'm in, sometimes, but daily, like consistent. And I'm talking like the
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week, not 7 days a
Yep.
week.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be real, but I don't know. Maybe I should say that as an artist,
Just set it. See,
every
the thing
day.
is you can set the rule and set the promise you can't keep for, a time period and say, okay, I'm doing this for a week.
Mm.
So to me, creative, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, but this is my framework.
Yeah.
Creative essentialism. One, create an atmosphere in your mind, in your studio, and in your business, in your heart, where you can do the things you want to do, right? Be supportive to yourself. Have all of your stuff in order. Have the right tools. Set things up for yourself to succeed. Make decisions. I'm going to do this for a week. It's a promise I can't keep, but I'm going to see how far I can get. Right? Make that decision boldly. And then walk that path until the end. Keep going through the tape, right? It's a week. I know I'm going to keep going through that tape. I'm not going to stop a day before and go, I guess I didn't fail because I failed because I only did it 3 days. No. Do the 4 hours that last day. Okay? Because if you have to keep living that week over and over, you're going to have to live it over and over the rest of your life anyway. Right? This is what we realize now. It's the wisdom of the abyss. That the hardest thing is the emotions. So we do it one day, we have to go to the doctor the next day. Your mom calls one day, your daughter calls the next day. The next day you do it for 3 hours. The next day you do it for 1 hour. You're into the week and you look back, right? Life can feel like failure the whole time until you stop and look back and see how far you've come. Then you start the next week over. You can even keep a little chart if you want. I love checking boxes off. It's a game. It's fun. And when you think about how fun it is to create your own rules, then everything becomes easier in your mind, emotionally anyway. Okay,
Thank you for
everybody.
that. Real quick, I know we're late, but that just jolted a great idea because the game part I love. Making it a game, I love that. And I think a lot of us can get into that part as our humanness is competitive. But I thought of a bingo card.
Ah,
I can make it fun and put the bingo card on my studio and go, Mom called, Angela called. Like how
I
did
love
my
it.
bingo card get full?
That's so perfect. So you
Something
could
like that.
okay, so here's my archetypes, and this is sometimes I go, oh, this is the one I'm going to be today. Right. Caregiver. But what happens when I'm the magician? Does the magician answer the phone? No. The magician does not answer the freaking phone. The magician's too busy making magic. Okay? So yes, play the game. Bingo card, I love it. I'm going to try that. It could be, Pam's art bingo game, right? Come up with a fun name. And then you could put like X's for when you get distracted. And then you could put hearts or something when you actually do the 4 hours, or 1 hour at a time, whatever, right? Make it up. We're artists. We get to make this up. Don't take it so seriously. I know everything I've talked about all week is really serious. It's the abyss, it's death, it's all of that. But once we know all that, now we get to make it up. We're artists. And we need to play and have fun with it. And that takes the pressure off. I'm not here to tell you what the rules are for your game. You get to make it up. Okay, that's all for today. Do your journal entry. I'll have a little PDF for you tomorrow to kind of put this together. And I thank you for being here. And yeah, prayers and blessings to the people who are losing everything right now. Hopefully people are safe. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much. Bye.